Hi, I'm Lucky Samurai, and in this video, I'm obsessed with The Boys, and not just because I spent way too long working on this video. Welcome to my channel. You can address me with she, her pronouns, or they, them. I actually don't mind either, and I hope we can generate some meaningful discussions. So judging from the title, you probably want to know the answer, and to put it quite simply, the answer is yes, Supes are heroes. But are we surprised? Well, stick around and hear me out for the second half of the title. But before I get into all that, here's the intro. The Boys is a show adapted from the comics of the same name created by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. It was adapted for TV by Eric Kripke and premiered last year in July 2019. Just a disclaimer, I wrote this video essay before the release of season 4, and although a lot of points were made in season 4 that kind of solidify my ideas here, I thought I should just focus on season 1 in this series of videos and dive into season 2 as this channel progresses, so yeah, keep an eye out for that. Anyway, as you already know from the title, this video is about the way the satirical show The Boys defines the word hero. In an age of superhero saturation, from Marvel to DC and everything in between, I've often wondered myself what it would be like to be a superhero. Especially in this social climate, you know, the fact that privacy is kind of a myth now, and especially given the fact that I'm only human. Granted, the hero hype has died down a little bit due to 5 letters - 2 numbers, although I've heard the new Wonder Woman is gaining a lot of traction. Should I watch it? I don't know. Have you guys seen it? What do you guys think about it? But nevertheless, The Boys seem to slide in at just the right moment, especially following major movie events from the likes of Marvel and DC. Of course, in shows and movies, we're only shown the height of action and direct cause and effect related to the plot. There's the occasional aftermath scenes where a conveniently placed large body of water or open space seems to take all the collateral damage, and we see the public express their admiration and gratitude of the heroes via news reports, and even if the public doesn't agree at first, i.e. Sokovia, they end up being saved by the heroes anyway, and their stories afterward aren't really addressed unless they become a villain or a hero, a la the Vulture, the Maximoff twins, or Two-Face. That's not to say no superhero media hasn't tackled the repercussions of the other side, but they're never really fully addressed from what I've seen. I like superheroes, so I'm a nerd, but I'm not like superhero aficionado or anything like that. Anyway.
She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now.
At the end of the day, it seems unanimous that superheroes equal good, but what about the people in all those buildings that Superman, the Hulk, or those huge alien whales from the first Avengers movie crash into? Are we to assume that the people inside evacuated on time? Or are they collateral losses of life that merely get brushed aside for the greater good and the survival of the rest of the world?
I don't know. I don't know.
The show The Boys attempts to answer some of these questions by approaching it from the opposite side. We get Huey's point of view, where we see that he's very much an ordinary guy, an everyman if you will.
Child. Anyway, so
following Huey, we see he's a bit meek, but has a job at which he's pretty knowledgeable, a loving girlfriend, and is a fan of superheroes, who are known as Supes in this universe. After the jarring manslaughter of his girlfriend Robin at the hands of A-Train, a Supe from this show's parallel of the JLA or Avengers called the Seven, Huey's outlook on Supes drastically changes. Essentially, the show takes Huey's tragic loss to explore the repercussions from the receiving end of tragic superhero acts. And I'd like to argue that in The Boys, because the victims of Supes can also be innocent people and not just bad guys, the definition of the term hero ultimately depends on those receiving the direct repercussions of Supes' actions, despite the aggressive push towards making Supes out to be your stereotypical perfect superhero, which is all just a fancy way of saying that superheroes are not always entirely heroic in this universe. Now, in this series of videos, I will be discussing this from the perspectives of the public, the protagonists, and the Supes. This video specifically covers the general public's point of view, but I do wish to discuss the motivations of Vought International and the satire of celebrity culture, corporations, and capitalism in another video. So for now, let's get into how The Boys defines hero. So let's start with the perspective of the general public, or the GP as I'll be referring to them. In this show, the masses view the Seven and other Supes as heroes in the traditional sense, swooping in to save the day, Deus Ex Machina style. They idealize and kind of worship the Supes as heroes with noble qualities, and they place them on a pedestal as being greater and better than them, which we do see right in the opening scene, where two boys are discussing their favorite Supes and respective movies. Soon after, the following ensues.
Holy shit.
What are you smiling at?
Homelander?
You boys okay?
Can I get a selfie?
Of course you can.
The Seven's Queen Maeve and Homelander meet.
From this brief opening scene, we know immediately that the public generally adores the Supes in typical hero fashion. People of all ages stop to applaud and take pics with them afterwards.
Stop taking pictures of yourself. Your sister's going to jail.
From the way the public here embraces the Supes, their reactions depict their admiration and respect. They accept the Supes' actions as heroic and benefiting them by keeping them safe from bad guys. I think it's interesting to note as well that despite the involvement of the police, the Supes are not perceived as vigilantes, probably due to their representation under Vought. Another example of how the public's perception of the Supes lends to their definition of hero are from the tragic airplane victims. Both the plane in which the mayor of Baltimore and his son rode, and the hijacked commercial plane, are examples of this in episodes 2 and 4, respectively. The mayor's son has a smile on his face as he recognizes Homelander outside the window. Because the son was feeling a bit frightened due to the turbulence caused by the blatant foreboding and pathetic fallacy, the sight of a well-known Supe seems like a ray of hope. The mayor seems confused at first, but only too late does he realize Homelander's malintent.
Oh my god.
In a chillingly similar situation, episode 4's plane hijacking scene plays out torturously slow, but is very well paced in that it's quite difficult to watch. Here, we see similarities to the previous plane scene in that upon the initial arrival of the Supes, the passengers seem relieved at the sight of Homelander and Queen Maeve. However, as the rescue goes south, the passengers on the plane, who previously felt hope at the sight of the Supes, shift to fear as Homelander threatens to kill and harm them before ultimately leaving them to perish.
We're done here. No! No, what? So they can tell the world that we left the rest of them to fucking die? No! You stay the fuck back or I'll laser you, goddammit! I'll laser every fucking one of you! Stay back! Don't die with them.
Both these scenes highlight the public's fear of the Supes. Part of the reason the public adores Supes to the point of idolization is because of the inherent difference between them, their powers. They admire the Supes for using their godlike abilities to protect and save them, but tend to assume they will use them solely for those reasons. That's why the stereotypical definition of hero is assumed when it comes to the general public's perception of them. When the script is flipped and the Supes threaten the people with their powers or even fail to use them at all, then people realize how truly helpless they are against a Supe and against life, especially something as horrific as a plane crash. That difference in power dynamics is what makes the regular human revere the Supes, and also what adds to their fear, as they'd rather be on the Supes' good side than face the wrath of their powers. It's kind of super similar to the fear or awe of God in Catholicism, in my opinion. And I think it's also interesting to note here that And I do get into this later in greater depth, but I do want to touch upon the fact that when the public or the victims who are in need of help are inevitably going to perish, the Supes do act differently in front of them. That doesn't tarnish their overall reputation. They're still viewed as heroes despite the minority that have seen otherwise.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh my God.
The final example of the public's perception of Supes that I'm going to talk about expands on that idea of being on the receiving end of the Supes' power, but in an unintentionally malignant way. This is demonstrated by ACDS in the aptly titled 6th episode, The Innocents. In this scene, Billy Butcher takes Huey to the ACDS meeting in a church. We see the members of the group portrayed in a similar manner the rest of media shows AA or trauma groups, passing around a talking stick and sharing their stories. This scene highlights both the show's dark humor and the blatant idol worship of Supes, with lines like,
I know it's wrong to feel angry. After all, Tech Knight saved me. I just wish he'd been a little more gentle with my spine.
As one of the members, Seth, shares his unfortunate yet hard for me to maintain a super straight face story.
There's this one hero who shall remain nameless, but has ice powers.
Ice Princess.
I'm not allowed to say. Anyway, we were, being intimate when she climaxed and accidentally turned into ice. Just for a second. But I was, still in there at negative 346 degrees. Same temperature as liquid nitrogen. As you can imagine, it snapped off.
He ends his story with,
That's the cost of a mortal like me for being with a god like her.
likening the Supes to gods immediately places them on a different, higher level than non-Supes. These examples depict the way the GP views the Supes in a stereotypical hero way, to the point where even if they're hurt by them, they still consider it to be a positive experience overall, because Supes are heroes and idols and thus good. The members of ACDS practice
It's about acceptance, isn't it? Letting go, moving on.
Commonly seen in therapy, and especially in response to traumatic events. But from the members who spoke and the nods from the other members, there's an overall sense of almost apologetic meekness in their tones, as if they're accepting their places beneath the Supes, that these are heroes and they must be treated as such and place them on a higher pedestal than their own lives. Overall, the GP adheres to the standard definition of hero, that is, the GP that are still alive to share their stories. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. This was a lot of fun to make and I can't wait to make more. I also wanted to add that all of the background music in my video was produced by my friend Hollow the Dog, and I've linked his SoundCloud below, so go check him out. The second part of this video essay will cover the boys and the Supes part, so watch out for that. So yeah, thanks again if you made it to the end. Comment your thoughts and questions and opinions, and I'll see you here soon, hopefully. Bye!